My vision is a planet where good people, people with good intentions, control the majority of wealth, and they use that wealth to make the world a better place. All right. What's up? Jerry Fetta here, owner, founder, CEO of Wealth Dynamics. Hey, hope you're doing well today. I want to give you this Finance Friday this week, live from Albuquerque, New Mexico. And as always, I'm coming to you live to share financial education, right? So if you're watching live, if you're watching the replay, it doesn't matter. The goal of this, my intention is to give you education so you can build more wealth. Right? Because my vision is a planet where good people, people with good intentions, control the majority of wealth, and they use that wealth to make the world a better place. Right? Simple as that. I think if more good people have the resources, what's up, Adriel? Good to see you. If more people have the resources, if more people have wealth, we're going to see the planet become better. We're going to see, things improve. Right? So what I want to share with you this evening is I want to talk to you about quarterly trips. Right? This is something that I do in my own life with my family, right? I do quarterly trips. So me and my spouse, we take off every quarter and we go plan, right? We focus on building, our plans, our goals, our dreams, etc. And so the purpose of this really, guys, is to build more wealth. Now, when I was growing up, I never traveled, right? If you're like me, I want to see hands up, hearts, comments below. If travel was not something you did as a kid, as a teenager, as a young adult. For me, it wasn't. I grew up in Alaska, right? So I didn't leave Alaska once I moved there. I didn't leave Alaska for a very long time. I lived there for like 20 years. I didn't really see much of the US. When I got into business, I started to travel more, right? I moved to Minnesota. I was in Chicago for a bit. I was in LA for a bit. I lived in Florida, Kansas, all over the place. Right now, I'm currently spending 4 or 5 days doing some planning in New Mexico, right? Now, the travel thing for me is so important, right? I do not own a home, I rent, right? And the reason is I want to actually be mobile. I want to be able to leave where I'm at. I want to be able to go places. I want to be able to experience things. And I use that to expand my viewpoints and my horizons. Okay, because here's what happens. So many times, we get caught up in just day-to-day life. The same routines, the same chores, the same errands, the same locations, the same people, the same conversations, the same attitudes. It becomes a little echo chamber that we've built for ourselves with our own comfort zones in our own lives. And I found that when I travel, right, what that does for me is it puts me in a new space, right? It forces me to say, wow, this is different than what I'm used to. Right? There's different cultures here. Right now I'm in New Mexico, Albuquerque, right? One of my favorite places I've been so far. And there's a lot of Native American culture. There's a lot of Mexican culture. There's a lot of really cool stuff happening. Okay. For me, from a wealth building standpoint, that unplugs me from the day-to-day grind, right? It unplugs me from the day-to-day grind. I'm able to disconnect from all the stuff I do on a regular basis, the routines, the monotony, and I'm able to start thinking differently. Right? So seeing amazing, there's a lot of mountains right now around me, mountains all over the place, the desert, different things that I don't usually see. It makes me think bigger, right? It kind of de-stresses me. It puts me in this state of mind of, okay, good. I want to think about the future now. Okay. Let me ask you if you've ever felt this or experienced this, right? Where you're so focused on your present time circumstances in life that you don't actually take a moment to think about the future. You don't plan ahead, right? What ends up occurring is the future shows up anyways. The future ends up becoming the present anyways, and we've not done anything for it. We've not thought about it. It now shows up, and the future, this beautiful future and possibility and potential that we could have had, it just becomes the present again. And then like that, it's gone and it's in the past, and we wake up and it's 10 or 15 or 20 years later, right? And what are we doing? We're still paycheck to paycheck. We're not any further ahead on our net worth and our wealth building, right? We're still paying on the mortgage. We're still making the car payments. We're still barely getting by, right? And we're stuck in the same position we were in 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And I don't think that that's called life, right? I don't believe that we're designed, right, to spend, serve the 40-year to life sentence, trading our time for money 40 to 60 hours a week, doing something that we don't love, just to make a buck so we can struggle to pay the bills. And meanwhile, the IRS and the banks and Wall Street and the financial institutions are all getting ahead while we don't. Okay, so I want to share with you the breakdown. When I do these quarterly trips, okay, number one, these need to be financially allocated for. Okay, why is a trip financially allocated? Because it's going to cost money to go on a trip, right? Who here likes travel, right? I do. I love travel. I like the experience. I like the food. I like the culture. I like all the things I just mentioned, okay? Who here likes credit card debt? I don't. Right? Who here likes barely getting by because you spent, $2,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 you really didn't have on an experience in a trip, and now you're paying the price for it for the next 12, 24, 36 months? Right? Your travel needs to be financially allocated. What does that mean? What that means is I'm going to take a percentage of my income and I'm going to set that aside into a travel account. I'm actually going to have an account for travel. Every time I get a check, every time I bring in income, every time an investment pays me, a fixed percentage of that gets allocated into an account for travel, right? And so if I'm going to travel, that's my budget, whatever's in that account. This is a rule you need to follow. And this rule doesn't just apply to travel. This applies to everything financial, okay? You need to make sure you have it before you spend it. So decide, I'm going to put 2% of my income towards travel, 5% of my income towards travel, whatever it might be, but it needs to fit in with what's real with your finances, because the purpose of this trip, the purpose of travel when I do it, these quarterly trips, the purpose of this is to accelerate my wealth building. So if I do it in a way that financially sets me behind, right? Or if I do it in a way where it makes me, pay the price for the next 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years on credit cards or debt or whatever, or even on opportunity cost, meaning I spent money I could have invested instead, that's not getting me ahead financially. A trip should be an asset, not a liability. Right? This whole you only live once, right? This is not something you should be thinking. You should be looking at, okay, I want to actually plan ahead. I want to have a great financial life. I want to provide for my loved ones. I want to provide for my family. Okay? And this is all stuff that you want to plan ahead for. So financially allocate the travel. Okay, the second thing is you want to make sure you have the purpose of your trip planned. Right? What is the purpose of traveling? Okay, and so when I'm doing travel, I'm usually I'm going to take a trip every quarter, and it's going to be 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 days, somewhere in that range, a couple of days. Okay, the first thing I want to do is I want to mentally unplug from the day-to-day grind. Okay, mental space. And this is not self-care, kumbaya, lavender bubble baths and all this kind of stuff and feeling sympathy for myself. It's, okay, if I'm this close to the picture and it's right in front of my face, and that's all I'm looking at every single day, I want to plan ahead when I travel. So I want to pull that out away from my face and give myself some space mentally to think and be clear and actually have the attention to start planning for the future. Right? And this only happens if I intentionally do that. So when I'm traveling, I'm not having the same conversations I'm having about work or about business. I'm gonna take a break from those. Right? I'm gonna have experiences that are artful and aesthetic and they're positive and they make me happy and they're man, this was a great experience. Who's ever had that? Right? You go to a restaurant, you see some art, you watch a movie, you go to a nature exhibit, you hike a mountain, you see a beach, whatever it is, and your mental space just opens up, right? It just clears up, and you've got all of a sudden, you're thinking better, and you're the all of the buzz in your head. It's like your computer browser having a bunch of tabs open. The tabs get cleaned out, they get closed, and all of a sudden you can think clearly. Who's experienced that before? Right? So that's what I do when I'm traveling. That's the first thing I want to accomplish. Okay, because of what I'm doing when I travel is I'm trying to create a plan, a masterpiece of what my next 90 days is going to look like. Right? Any artist is going to tell you, if you're going to make a painting, start with a blank canvas. Don't do someone else's painting. Right? It's very hard to accomplish that. So my mental capacity, my attention units, my attention band, right? That is my canvas. So I want to clean that up. I want that to be clear. I want that to be something that I can start to think with. Okay? So the purpose number 1 on this is clear the mind. Okay? The second thing is I want to bring myself more positivity, right? I want to bring myself up tone, more positivity. Okay, changing your environment is a way to do that, right? So if I change my environment, I go somewhere that is nicer, cleaner, bigger, more aesthetic, warmer, whatever it might be, that kind of positive thing, it makes me more positive. Who would agree? If you're thinking about your future, you better be thinking positively. Okay, because your future is made up. It's completely made up. It's not something that actually is going to happen in and apart from you making it happen. So why would I come up with a future that's not as good, right? Why would I come up with a future that's maybe negative? Why would I come up with a future that, is focusing on what could go wrong or what I'm not enjoying about my life or any of that kind of stuff? Right? I wouldn't want that kind of future. I would want a future, right, where I'm thinking about the good things that are going to happen. If I'm going to daydream and make something up, I want it to be a good story. I don't want my future to be a negative story. So the travel allows me to do that. When I'm opening up my mindset, it's more positive. My future planning becomes more positive as well. Okay? So the other thing I'm looking at financial planning. And progress. Right? These are all purposes for why I would travel. So financial planning and progress. I want to look at, okay, what is the next 90 days of my financial life going to look like? What has the last 90 days of my financial life looked like? Okay, the other part of this too, number 4, is I'm going to say is personal development. I'm going to bring books. I want to study. While my mind is clear, I want to study. I want to improve myself. Oh, hi there. I didn't see you there. I'm just reading my book, Blueprint to Financial Freedom. If you want to read it with me, I will give you a free copy right now if you go to the page jerryfetta.com/B2F promo or just click the link in the description. I'm going to get back to my study. Now, I'm going to give you guys a hint here. If you are an investor, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a business owner and you are traveling and you want to write your trip off on your taxes, right? Who would like to be able to take a great trip and write it off on your taxes? Have the IRS help out with the trip, right? They don't help out with much. The least they could do is help us out with that, right? So if you want to do that, you need to spend a certain amount of time each day working. Okay, I'm not a CPA. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a tax professional. My understanding from my CPAs, my tax people, for me, is that I need to spend at least 4 hours a day on average doing work. And I need to document that, right? So that means that what? I'm studying. That's work related. Okay, I'm doing financial planning. That's work related. I'm doing business planning, right? That's work related. Okay, but it's not going to be like I'm sitting there answering emails and making phone calls and that kind of stuff. Like work doesn't need to be your day to day. So the point of this is do the work that's different than your day to day. Fly above, plan ahead, and that way you can write those hours off. You can say, good, I did the requirement to write the trip off on my taxes. Because I did that, I have a tax deduction. Because I did that, I've got a better future plan. Right? So all this stuff is what I'm doing, okay? I'm also going to stay active. I'm going to say be active or extroverted. Okay, I want to be outside. I want to be hiking. I want to be swimming. I want to be walking. I want to be moving around and being in the environment, right? This is all stuff I'm focused on when I'm traveling. So these are all clear purposes, right? A big part of this and all of this leads to good future planning. Okay, that's what I'm focused on here. I want good future planning. Right now, this also needs to be something that is, distraction free, right? Like I'm not having, like if I'm a salesperson, for example, I'm not having my clients buzzing my phone and texting me, and I've got to, handle this problem, handle that problem. Like I need space for a good 2, 3, 4 days. Right? If you're parents, don't bring the kids on this one, right? You need space. You need to plan ahead. You need to create the future, right? That's your responsibility, not theirs. So you need to really give yourself the space and the focus level and the aesthetic level and be able to really be a big being for these 3 or 4 days and think about what am I going to create in my future, right? Not, present time stuff, right? So this is all of the focus with the travel thing. And again, guys, you do need to spend time, if you want to write this off on taxes, you do need to spend time working. You do need to document that. You do need, because if you get audited and you tell the IRS, oh, I watched a video from Jerry one time. He went to Albuquerque and he said he wrote it off on his taxes. So I did the same thing. And they're like, cool, show us what you did, right? What was the work? Were you going to an event? What was it? Were you doing planning? Like, show us. And you can't show them that. They're going to say, cool, we're not going to allow that tax deduction. You now owe taxes and penalties and interest because you avoided taxes on this expense that you claim that didn't actually have anything to do with business because you can't prove it. The importance of proving these things with records is huge, right? So here's a good example. I'm doing a video right now. This video is entirely related to my business, right? So there's proof. I'm documenting. I'm currently doing business activity on my trip, right? You want to do this stuff, right? So the final thing I want to say, and this is kind of the frame of mind I want you to have. The travel you're doing here, if you've noticed, it's probably very different than what you see most people do and what you hear of most people do, right? Often we go and we travel, and what is it? It's like, you know, go to Disney World and you're just being a tourist the whole time, or go to the Caribbean and you're just on the islands, you know, drinking pina coladas the whole time, right? That's inflow activity, and it's also present time. You need to be in the future a little bit in your life. You need to make this travel thing an outflow activity and a future activity. So that's why it's not load the van up with the kids and go to Disney World, or take the wife and let's go to the beach and drink margaritas and pina coladas all day. It's not that kind of vibe. It is a very active, it is a very, you know, it's high aesthetic. You know, you're doing a lot of goal setting and you're doing a lot of, you know, creating the future and all that stuff, but it's still going to be effort, right? And I think a lot of times we take travel and we use it as an escape from a life we don't enjoy, rather than using travel as a tool to build the life we do enjoy that we don't need to escape from. And you give yourself these little tastes. And this is the last thing I'm going to say on the travel bit before I talk to you guys on another topic. If you give yourself these little tastes, you know, every quarter. And guys, when I was just starting out, because I don't want you to be like, oh, Jerry, he's an investor and a business owner and he's able to do this stuff and good for him. Guys, I started my life poor. I was in the negative. I did not have any leg up. I didn't have a hand up. I didn't inherit money. I didn't get a business loan. I didn't go to college. I was an average guy. I lived in Alaska. There was 62 kids in my graduating class in high school. Right? My best friend is in prison. You know, a bunch of kids I knew in school, they died. So I'm not coming from this background of like Ivy League, you know, having this upper edge on life, right? I came from the bottoms of the bottoms. So when I first started this, traveling meant I went to a hotel 30 minutes away from where I live that was nicer than my apartment. And I did that. And I at least did that to make sure, okay, cool, I'm still doing this, right? I'm still getting the space. I'm still getting away. I'm still getting all this planning and stuff done. And as I did that, my life improved and my economic means increased. And then I was able to say, cool, let me do this in a different town. Let me do this in a different state, right? Or even let me do this in a different country. You can get to that level of it, right? But you're going to work up to that. So I don't want you to be like, I'm saving, you know, 10% of my income. And instead of investing that in financial intelligence or, you know, skills to grow my income or putting that towards investments, instead of doing that, I'm going to spend all of it on a trip because Jerry said travel, right? No. Travel in a way that enhances your life and doesn't pull you down. Travel in a way that creates your future rather than escapes from the present. Travel in a way that incentivizes you to work even harder the next 90 days because you should earn your travel, right? This is going to be a hard lesson for some people to hear. And I learned this one early on. Nothing in life is deserved. You're owed nothing. Literally, like on your own, if you just had you and life and you didn't go fight and earn the things that you have, you would just die. That's how life works. You would die in the woods somewhere. We would still be cavemen. Civilization wouldn't exist. So the idea that I'm entitled to a trip, that doesn't exist. The idea that I'm exhausted, therefore I deserve a break, that doesn't exist either, right? You need to earn this stuff. And when you earn it, you feel good about it. You're like, man, I freaking earned that. Who's ever earned something you felt good about, right? I never, ever feel bad for earning something. So this idea of like go easy on yourself and making it into an Adele crying song is not life. That's not victory. Right? Don't travel out of sympathy and wallowing in your pity and life is so hard and so I deserve it because I work a job. So does everybody. So does everybody, right? At the end of the day, you've got to earn this. And that's why the very first thing I said is it needs to be allocated. If it's a percentage of your income, you would therefore have to earn the income first to reward yourself with the trip, to reward yourself with the travel. And if you do the travel right, it should then increase the income. The income goes up, you can now spend more on the next one. The income goes up again because you did the travel correctly, you can spend more on the next one, right? I hope you guys are tracking well with that. So if you're watching this video right now, what I would like to do is I want to share with you a free gift I'm going to give you just for tuning in. I'm going to give you a free copy of my book, right? And this is called The Blueprint to Financial Freedom. So if you go to jerryfetta.com, so here's my first and last name, jerryfetta.com, a free copy of my book, The Blueprint to Financial Freedom. Right now, what does that have to do with any of this? Okay, actually a lot. Okay, so the book here, this is something that I spent over 10 years of my life studying and researching the top 1%, right? The actual historically wealthy, not the Wall Street people, not somebody's Reddit feed, not a Twitter post, right? Like what did the Rockefellers do? What did the Rothschilds do? What did the Carnegies do? And I looked at it and I was like, okay, after reading their biographies and studying them for the last decade plus of my life, these are the things they did. And I started to apply those same things in my own life. What if I just copied the wealthy? That was my theory. Like, I don't need to be a genius. I just need to copy what they're doing. Rather than hating on the top 1%. I said, they're good with money. I don't need to like live my lifestyle like them. But what if I copied their financial habits? I bet I would get similar results. Just like if I copied someone in the gym that was buff. I'm like, cool, that guy does that. I'm going to do the same thing. I'll probably end up buff also. Right? So I copied and I started to model what they were doing and I got amazing results with my finances. Right? And the result of that is, guys, I'm turning 32 years old this year. I don't have to trade time for money anymore. Because of my business, because of my investments, I have passive income that exceeds my giving, my expenses, my taxes, my savings. That's called financial independence. Right? That gives me, again, the space to live the life I desire to live and live according to my purpose rather than, trading my time for money just for the sake of money. Money is a very shallow motivation. And I know that's ironic because I'm talking about wealth right now, but wealth doesn't just mean money. Okay, if you look at the origin of the word wealth, it actually means wholeness. Somebody who has complete wholeness in their life, which would include finances. You can't be whole physically, spiritually, relationally, emotionally, mentally, professionally, all this stuff if you're not also whole financially. Right? Wealthy means you've got the whole package. And you do need finances to accomplish that. And it is something that's doable. The myths out there, the false information out there is that it's difficult, it's hard, it's only for special people, it's only for certain individuals. All that's wrong. Okay, I'll give you an example. Andrew Carnegie. You guys have heard of Carnegie Mellon University. That's Andrew Carnegie. He donated that, right? He was a first-generation immigrant from Scotland. Moved to America, was literally dirt poor. And when he was a kid, he was working to help his mom pay the bills. Right? Think about that. 11 years old and you're holding a job to help your mom and dad pay the bills for all your siblings and you guys live in a dirt hut with a dirt floor. Right? So he had the goal as a kid that he wanted to become the wealthiest person in American history and then give every cent of it away to help other people. And the dude actually accomplished that. He was America's first billionaire. And he died penniless. He gave all of it away. Donated, he created libraries, gymnasiums, theaters, colleges, you name it. This guy changed society. And his idea was wealth, for those who build it, is a responsibility. And part of that responsibility is not only to improve your quality of life, not only to improve the quality of life for the ones you love, but to improve also the quality of life for the world around you. Right? So if you're watching this right now or listening to this and that resounds with you, that means you're a good person. That's what I believe. Doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. If you think that that makes sense and you're like, I would love to do that, I think you're a good person. I think you have good intentions. And I think that you just don't have the right information and education just like I didn't. So I'm giving you a copy of the book here. go to jerryfetta.com/B2F promo. You can get a free copy of the book, right? And that's going to start to give you the right information, because my dream for you, part of my goal in life, my mission in life, is that if you're a good person with good intentions, that you do build wealth and that you do use that wealth to make the world a better place. Okay, so guys, that's all I've got for you this evening. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see you again next Finance Friday. All right, guys, have a great night. I want to thank you for watching my video. If you learned something from this, if it was value to you, what I'd like to do is I'd actually like to give you a free copy of my book, Blueprints Financial Freedom. This is perfect for those that are on my channel learning this stuff and you want to take it to the next level. So if you go to the link jerryfetta.com, just my first and last name, jerryfetta.com/B2F promo, or click the link in the description, grab a free copy, we'll send it out to you. Can't wait to get you a copy in your hands.